Hey, Kevin Tjia here, and welcome to another edition of Launch Guardian Raw. Now, this edition is all about one thing that will truly make a difference in your life, in your business, in your relationships. And I know that we hear that a lot, especially if you're in business or you're a marketer, or maybe if you're just being marketed to. But I'm excited to share this with you because it is the one thing that really, really matters. And it does not matter what the topic is. It doesn't matter what your goal is. If you don't do this one thing, you're just never ever going to get it. Now, there are some theories, I'm going to call them mysteries about this one thing, okay? And it is something where if you look at Dale Carnegie, right? Sorry, my apologies. Napoleon Hill, who was asked by Dale Carnegie to go and write a book about success, right? That's what we're really talking about here. We're talking about being successful, and it does not matter what your goals are. That goal, being successful in that goal, is really what we're talking about, right? And Dale Carnegie asked Napoleon Hill to go and seek out those who have been successful, and specifically in business for this particular case, or in large ventures. May not have been business related, but they kind of always were, or something that impacted the world, which really does boil down to time and energy or money, right? So out went Napoleon Hill, and he started writing this book. And it's called Think and Grow Rich. If you've ever read that book, then you know that in there, Napoleon says, I'm not going to tell you the secret to this book, even though it's called Think and Grow Rich. That kind of tells you what it's all about. I'm not going to tell you what this one thing is. You're going to have to figure it out as you hear these stories, right? As you hear these stories. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that method. I'm a fan of it clicking in your mind. When you have that moment of clarity, when you really truly believe in what is being said to you because you figured it out. It hasn't just been told to you, but you figured it out. Then I know that is when belief has been installed. And I want more than anything for you to believe this one thing, because it will change your life. You just have to do it. In order to do it, you have to believe it, okay? Now, I'm not going to take Napoleon Hill's approach. I just don't think that it's going to be all that helpful, just to leave it that way, right? So I'm going to take the more direct approach, okay? Again, the indirect to direct approach, I remember reading The Ultimate Success Secret, which is on my bookshelf right over there, from Dan Kennedy, and he talks about the one secret that really changed everything, and it's this thing that I'm about to tell you about today. And he basically says, there's a hint, there's a clue, right? I was scrolling through the channels, and I saw a preview for a movie called Action Jackson, and according to Dan Kennedy, it wasn't a great movie, but the title was so gripping, right? So informative and provocative. And there's a reason for that, right? As people, we love the idea of taking action. Notice I said the idea, okay? We love the idea of taking action. We love the idea of planning ahead. We love the idea of saying, that's the way it's going to be. This is known as future pacing or future casting. And it's about, sort of projecting the goal and the dream. Call it daydreaming. Call it, projecting your future. Call it putting it on a whiteboard, or not whiteboard, a dream board, a vision board, whatever you want to call it. We love that process. But there's a second part to that process, right? Action Jackson didn't run around the movie just running around. He had to do the things that created the result. Right? He had to do the things that created the result that they were looking for. And it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I'm not going to try to remember, what the whole plot of the story was all about. But here's what I can tell you. There was a time, if you actually listen to or watch my previous episode, episode 1, the origin story of Launch Guardian, then you know that there was a time when I was working, and due to some health concerns, very suddenly I was not able to work anymore. And this created a problem, right? This created a problem for me because it made it so that suddenly my livelihood was in jeopardy. Suddenly my lifestyle was in jeopardy. Suddenly who I thought I was in jeopardy because I could no longer provide in the way that I was looking to provide, right? I can no longer create the lifestyle for my children that will allow me to continue to be the good role model that I wanted to be for them. So I had what I considered the perfect life moving forward, right? I had a degree in programming. I was going to, do tech support for a while, then start getting more into programming, and then eventually get that job and move on. And when I started to make that transition into, from tech support to programming, that's when things struck, right? I'm not going to call it a disaster, but at the time it certainly felt like it. It certainly felt like a disaster. And I was no longer able to work. I was put on long-term disability. And what I realized was that I needed to change, right? I needed to move away from tech support and programming, and I needed to move towards something that was more entrepreneurial, something where I could take control of my financial future with or without the problems that I was having, right? Whether or not I had those problems or not, I needed to move forward in a way that was going to actually change my future. So what I realized was that I did some research, right? I dug in. I said, how do you build a business, and what kind of business do I want to build, and what are my assets right now? And I realized that online was the way to go. Now, this was 2004, maybe even 2002. Like it was there's a reason I say I got started in 2006, and that was because that's when I started doing this secret thing, which it changed my world at that time. Now, it didn't change it quickly because of me, right? But it did change my world, and that was I knew I needed to go into online marketing. So what did I do? Number one, I started reading blogs, right? I started reading blogs. I started going to free webinars. I started consuming all the free content I could consume, videos and blog posts and white papers, and those were a thing back then. White papers. You don't see them too often anymore, depending on your industry, but pretty much back then that was like the thing, right? And what I started to learn was that you could make money online, and you could do it for near free, right? Maybe even free, but near free. And there was all of these different ways to do it, but it came to a point where I had already, read ebooks, purchased ebooks, read videos, purchased video courses, gone to webinars, purchased online training, gone to events, purchased access to real live events where people were instructing, me and a group of others. And all of these things had the same result. And the result was that I would go home and I would envision, this thing that we love to do. I would envision the process and the goal and what I was going to do. And I would have clarity in that moment of exactly what it is I wanted and how I was going to get there. And it was an illusion, right? It was an illusion of clarity because I knew what the goal was, but I had no idea what the steps were. And as soon as things got difficult, okay, let me say that a little differently. As soon as I had to put into practice, I had to implement, I had to take action, that's when things started to fall apart. And what would happen was I would start to take action, and I would get really excited, and I would move forward, and I would feel like I was getting stuff done. And then suddenly I came across something I didn't know how to do, or I came across something that I felt was outside of my reach, right? Maybe I could do it if I just had a little more money or a little more time or a little more expertise. And whatever it was that blocked my way, things eventually got hard. And in this world of business and marketing and constantly being marketed to, there's always someone else right there asking you, hey, are you successful yet? Right? Is it working yet? And if not, Would you mind checking out this thing, this amazing thing that I have? I know it's going to help you. And here's the thing. I believe them, all right? I've been around the block a few times. I know that this stuff works. But when you are in the middle of that crisis, when you're in the middle of what is, the darkest time of your path, on your way to the journey of success, and things aren't working your way, they're just not working out, then when someone reaches out a hand and says, I can help you, all you need to do is change paths. All you need to do is, stop taking action. Stop trying the thing you're doing now and just try this other thing. And then what would happen was you try that other thing, I would try the other thing, and it would get hard, right? It would get hard, and I would try the next thing, and then the next thing. And in our world, we call this shiny object syndrome, right? It's almost like a disease where you're going to, things get hard, and you're going to see this shiny object over there that promises you success. But you didn't stick with your last thing, and you've told yourself it's okay to abandon what you're doing in the pursuit of something easier, something better, or pitched as better. And the truth is, it's just something different. Okay, and it may be better, but it's definitely different. And the important part here, the realization that I had at this time, after years of doing this, was I was letting myself off the hook. I was letting myself, be that person who would abandon the project or the path or the way to start a new project, a new path, a new way. Just because it seemed easier, just because, I could then say that I got this success maybe faster. But if you do, let's say, a month of work into a project and it only takes 3 months to complete, then you start a new project that's, going to take 2 months to complete, or so you think, right? Then you would have been at success at the same amount of time if that's the way it worked out. And if anything became hard in the second path, then you'd still be right where you are now, right? You'd still be stuck. And that's what I realized was happening to me, was that I was continually getting stuck. Whenever it got hard, I'd switch paths and then get stuck, and it would get hard and I'd switch paths. And I did this over and over again. And that's when I was paying attention to a particular company called Digital Marketer, a gentleman by the name of Ryan Dice. He said something that really stuck with me, and it changed the way I view everything forever. Okay, he didn't say this next part, but taking action, the action Jackson part of it, is absolutely critical for your success. And that's the thing that you need to walk away from this episode knowing, is that you must take action. But there is a second part to that equation. Okay, there's a second part that should be added, and this is what Ryan said. He said, a half-built bridge serves no one. Okay, and I might be getting that quote slightly wrong. I'm pulling it from memory, but the idea that if you're a bridge builder and you're building that bridge, right? That's your job as a business owner. That's your job as a marketer. That's your job as a salesperson, right? If your job is to help someone move from the uncomfortable place that they're in right now, and they can see into the future, right? They can see in that, they can futurecast that island across the river, the raging river that's difficult to cross. They can see paradise, or what seems to be paradise to them. And your job as a business owner, as a marketer, as a salesperson, is to build the bridge that allows them to cross the raging river, okay? Or to cross the chasm that is dangerous. And when you do that and you build half a bridge, right? When you do half the work needed to get them across, and then you stop, what happens next, right? You stop so you can start building a new bridge. Let me ask you right now, how many half-built bridges are you going to build instead of just completing one? Because all it takes is one bridge across that raging river, one bridge across that dangerous chasm, and you and everyone else can then cross that bridge to get there. Okay? Now here's the amazing thing. Once you build that bridge, it's not just about your prospect or your customer achieving the goal which is, of course, the paradise, right? The island on the other side. That's their goal. It's not just about them achieving their goal, because you also achieve your goal. You also achieve your goal when they cross that bridge, because now you can cross that bridge with them. Okay? So the thing that I learned was that every single time that I took action, my life changed. My life changed always for the better. I'm not saying it always worked out, okay? I'm certainly not saying that right now, today, I always, build a complete bridge for every idea I ever had. There's not enough time in the day or days in the week or months in the year for that. There's a lot of ideas flowing, but I picked the one that I am absolutely committed to, and I build that bridge. And it may take me a few attempts. It may take me different ways of looking at how to build that bridge, but I stick with it until I have built it, because there's no point in constantly building half-built bridges in other projects, okay? So this entire podcast right now, this entire video series, if you're watching it on YouTube, is all about me committing to being here and sharing my journey with you in a raw sense, right? My journey of all the stumbles, all of the mistakes, all of the wins, and the reality of what it takes to build this company. And I want to thank you for being on this journey with me, and know that, this episode right here, actually, I struggled with, which is why there was a bit of a delay before it was released. I struggled with it because I was struggling with, like, what's the most value that I can provide in every episode. And I realized that any value is better than none, right? Any value is better than none. So this lesson of building the half-built bridge, like I said, it really stuck with me. And what I did at that time was, then I decided I was going to build a bridge. I went out and I did a product launch. I'm talking from scratch. I went out and gathered a community of people in a specific industry that I had never helped before. There were people I knew, or that, were spreading the word for me. It was not there was no PPC ads or anything like that, but I reached out to a few people I knew. They reached out to some people that they knew. There was some buzz that was gathered, and I sold a 4-week teleseminar course for $97, and I had 11 people show up. 9 of them were paid, 3 of them were comped, and that allowed me to see the power of building a complete bridge, right? And I could have at that time continued to use that same bridge, that same completed project, that same completed training, and continue to promote it and build that business, right? Now, I realized it wasn't the business I was looking to get into, but it allowed me to see the value of building a complete bridge for the very, very first time, completely online, as a online product and online sales funnel, and allowing me to complete that project. So I hope that this has allowed you to see maybe where you are right now, right? Take a moment to take stock of where you are right now. Are you chasing the next quick fix, or are you dedicated to building that bridge? No matter which one it is, choose one, and then see it through. And maybe you've got to, fix it up a little. Maybe you've got to repair that bridge, but just make sure it's built before you move on to something else. And that right there is critical to you moving forward with anything in your life, whether it be business, business launching, or anything else. So again, I hope this has been valuable. If you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, let me know in the comments below this video. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching this, or listening to this, I should say, on a podcast, jump over to our YouTube channel. Give us some comments there, or feel free to leave comments in your podcast player if that's possible. I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.